and welcome to Mountain Patriot Homestead. We are in the kitchen. I've got my apron on and we're gonna cook up something a little bit different this afternoon. I've been doing pies and cakes and that such thing, but I promised you that this recipe was going to be a little different, and it is. It is going to be green cornbread. But don't run off. It's not a Dr. Seuss book or some weird color thing going on. It is going to be a cornbread recipe that uses fresh corn, but it's not like the typical cornbread that you see brought to potlucks where you've got everything else in it. This is a very simple cornbread recipe, but it uses fresh corn. So let's get started. The oven is preheated to 400 degrees. This is 1 cup of white flour, and to it I'm adding something a little unusual. Now this is not my normal cornmeal that I would use in my cornbread, but as I try to tell you in other videos, is I use what I have on hand. This is a blue corn masa. This, if you've never heard of masa before, it is the same cornmeal, and it is very fine. See how fine? I mean, it's just ground very fine, but it is the same cornmeal that is used to make tortillas. So I'm going to add that in there, and then I've got 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half of teaspoon of salt, and that is my dry ingredients. It's just that simple, and I'm going to just mix them up together. This is actually going to be a side tonight for some pork chops. Next, I'm going to put together the wet ingredients. And I just have 1 cup of whole milk here. You could use cream, you could use half and half, you could use evaporated milk, whatever milk you have on hand, that's what you use. So this is 1 cup of whole milk, and to it I'm going to add 2 of our farm fresh eggs here. Just going to beat them just a hair before I put them in there. I could have added honey. I could have put in sugar. My husband really likes sweet cornbread. I am not a sweet cornbread person, but I am using sweet corn. So the sweet corn and the masa is has a stronger corn taste than cornmeal. So it's actually the sweetness of the masa is going to come through as well. And this sweet corn is so delicious. It's going to put more than enough sweetness in the cornbread for me. Now, if you like it really sweet, this recipe actually calls for up to a half a cup of sugar. I don't like sweet cornbread, so I don't do that. Every once in a while, if my husband wants cornbread and milk for supper, I will maybe put a little bit of sweet in it, but not a lot. If I want cake, I'll just make cake. But I have got this in there, and you don't want to just over mix it, but you do want to incorporate the 2 of these together, and that is what I'm doing here. And if it looks like it is just absolutely too dry, because this masa soaks up a lot of liquid, and so see how it's looking a little dry. Now let me explain. When you're in the kitchen and you're cooking and you're following a recipe, if you've had to substitute like I did here, the masa for the cornmeal, then if it gets to looking and it doesn't look right and you think I need to add some more wet to it, add some more wet to it. So let me get just a little bit more milk. I'll be right back. Okay, and since I am adding to this, I'm just going to put in a little bit at a time and just see what it looks like. See, I think that's way too thick for what I like my cornbread to be. Now, you may disagree. This may be what yours looks like when you make it, but you know, I'm kind of a sensory cook, I guess is what you would call it. I go by what it looks like. I go by what things smell like. And of course, how can you be a cook unless you go by what things taste like? So I'm just gonna keep adding it until I think I've got enough, and then I'm gonna stop. Now, if you have not spent much time in the kitchen and you're not sure, well, you know, all of this is trial and error. None of us is born knowing, how to be a five-star chef. And most of us, particularly me, will pass from this life and never be a five-star chef. But you know what? I feed my family. I try to make them happy. And, that's what this is about for me, is just making my family happy. Okay, so that is all I'm going to put in there because this corn is moist, and I've got the other ingredient that I'm going to add right now. What I'm adding here is I've got some melted bacon grease. I know some of you's heads is going to spin in a circle. You can use butter, you can use oil. I like to kind of use a little bit of both. I put in a little bacon grease and I put in a little butter, and so it gives it the flavor of both of those. Just gonna mix that up some. Now I'm gonna come back and I have my corn, and I just cut this off the ears and put it right in there. Okay, and just stir that in there. Now, when I was a little girl, this was a bread that when it was, of course, corn harvest time, and not the feed corn, but the actual harvesting of our eaten corn, Mama would cook up this green cornbread. All right, so I have got this stirred up as much as I want. I'm gonna get it in the pan. So I've got this in the pan. I'm going to stick it in the oven at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until, just like you would check for a cake being done, I will insert a toothpick to see if the toothpick comes out clean. And once it's ready, we will slice it up. And this is the outcome of my green cornbread. Now remember, I'm calling it green cornbread because we put in fresh corn, come right off the cob, and I am cutting this, and you can see there's still, it looks pretty moist because it had all that. I'm telling you, this pan is smoking hot. Okay, so I ain't getting in there just see, I just made a mess out of it, but it is so tender, it's just falling apart. Let me show you. Whew, that's hot. See all the smoke coming off of there? I don't know if you can see it or not, but see how tender that bread is? And yeah, it's because of that blue masa that I used. My preference for cornmeal is, I love yellow cornmeal. Again, I used what I had on hand, and I'm just going to put some butter right there on top of that. Let me get a fork out here, and let's have a taste test. All right, and here we go. I have got that green cornbread. Now again, folks, it is not green because of the color. It is green because of the fresh corn that is in it. Normally, this would either be made with white cornmeal or yellow cornmeal, but I had blue corn masa flour, or cornmeal, I guess. That's what I had, so that's what I used. Again, use what you have. And I'm just going to try a bite of this because, honestly, I've never eaten cornbread made with masa. Don't talk my mouth full. Okay. I'm surprised. I actually thought I was going to have to admit to y'all that it's raining. Oh, yay! That's not what I was trying to admit, but I'm really happy it's raining. But anyway, back to back to the cornbread. I was really afraid that I was going to try this with the masa, and then I was going to have to admit to y'all that I'd screwed up. But after eating this made out of the masa, I'm not sure I'm going to use regular cornmeal again because it has so much more of a corn flavor. I mean, and I love corn. When I was a little kid, I'd go out in the field and I'd eat it raw. Daddy always thought it was coons getting in the corn, but no, it was me. But this has a really good corn flavor, and with the fresh corn right off the cob, cut off the cob and put into it, it is really good. Again, I don't know if I might use regular cornmeal for just regular cornbread, but if I make the green cornbread, I'm going to use the masa because I really like how the flavors all go together. I don't think that I would even try putting sugar or anything in it. Now, if you really like sweet cornbread, by all means, I'm sorry folks, I can't quit eating this. If you really like sweet cornbread, by all means, put honey in it. Now, I don't mind having cornbread and putting honey over the top of it, which is an option, but I like this just like it is. Masa is a good choice. All right, so there was the green cornbread. I do hope you give it a try. If you are looking for the recipe, I'll be putting the ingredients down below in the description, and then of course the instructions are in the video. And I hope you come back again real soon. I love y'all. Mountain Patriot Homestead, signing out.